Joining us now to talk more about this is a policy director at the American Immigration Council, Aaron Reichlin-Melnick. He is live in Washington, D.C. and joining us this afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's talk about Title 42, starting with its history. What is it exactly, for those who don't know? How did it go into place in this case, and how has it been implemented at the border over the last 3 years?
Thank you for having me. Title 42 refers to an obscure public health law from 1893 that gives the CDC director the authority to suspend the introduction of people when they pose a serious danger of spreading a communicable disease into the United States. This law basically sat dormant on the books for the last 125 years until March of 2020, when the Trump administration invoked it when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Now, Title 42 gives border authorities the ability to essentially ignore normal immigration law and rapidly expel migrants back to another country. But of course, crucially, you need to have a country that's willing to accept people before you can expel them there. And since Title 42 began, its use has largely been conditioned on who Mexico will allow the United States to take.
Aaron, since its implementation, how has Title 42 affected asylum seekers and border crossings, and why have people been stuck in Mexico really for years now and they're just crossing now?
Yeah, because Title 42 overrides normal immigration law, it essentially means that people can't seek asylum because asylum is part of immigration law. So any person who's subject to Title 42, even if they go up to a Border Patrol official and say, I'd like to seek asylum, that official has the authority to simply refuse and send them back to Mexico or their home country, if possible. But crucially, it also means that normal immigration law penalties like orders of deportation or even criminal penalties for crossing the border without authorization can't be used on any person who is expelled under Title 42. So what we've seen is thousands or tens of thousands of asylum seekers getting stuck in northern Mexico, whereas those individuals who aren't trying to seek asylum, who are just sort of crossing the border trying to get a better life in the United States, those people can cross the border dozens of times, safe in the knowledge that the most likely outcome is that they'll just be stuck on a bus and sent back to Mexico with no permanent black mark on their record.
Aaron, let's talk about that, because with Title 8, which goes into effect upon the end of Title 42, if you try to get in through asylum, you're denied. You have to wait 5 years. Is that right? Between your efforts to come back and try again? Is it to the benefit of people to have tried during Title 42 versus waiting until after it expires?
Yeah, this is why it's very important to note that going back to normal immigration law, and that's just what Title 8 means, normal immigration law. So that going back to normal immigration law doesn't mean that the border is open. Those who cross the border are going to be subject, many of them, to something known as expedited removal, which is rapid deportation for people who can't show that they have a credible fear of being persecuted in their home country. But what that does mean is that people who are seeking asylum will now have a chance to argue to border officials or asylum officers that they want to seek asylum and they have a right to make that claim. Of course, not everyone is going to succeed in those claims, and many people are not seeking asylum. So for those individuals, an order of expedited removal is a deportation. They get deported to their home countries, or now actually Mexico has agreed to take certain nationalities who are going to be deported from the U.S. And if those people tried to cross the border a second time, they would be ineligible for asylum, and they would be potentially subject to felony criminal prosecution for illegal reentry.
Aaron, what should the U.S. immigration policy actually look like, and which resources are we missing? What are the necessary resources that would help make the system work?
Well, I think what we've seen over the last decade is pouring billions of dollars into border security and enforcement while starving the adjudication system of any money, and funding just isn't working. Right now, for example, we are in a system where the average the annual cost for the immigration court system is less than half of the cost we spent just for ICE detention alone. And in fact, the Trump administration spent $15 billion on building border walls, which is 40 times the annual budget of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Asylum Division. So really, what we actually have to do is invest the resources into the back-end adjudication system that we're currently spending pretty much only on our enforcement system. There are 2 million cases in the immigration court system, and yet its budget today is still less than $1 billion and only about a third of what we spend on ICE detention in any given year. So it's not that the system is unfixable, it's that we haven't put the political will into fixing it because politicians keep insisting that there's like one quick, easy trick that's going to solve this overnight. Instead, we just have to invest in this in a sustained manner.
All right, a lot of work to be done, certainly there at the border and throughout the country, especially there where you are, Aaron, in Washington, D.C. Aaron Reichlin-Melnick, we appreciate the insights today and look forward to more information here as we get closer to the deadline tonight at 9 o'clock our time. Aaron, thank you.